The First Crusade, 1096. At the turn of the previous millennium, 1,000 years ago, the rulers of Europe had a problem. They had standing armies of wealthy and highly trained soldiers, but they had run out of legitimate enemies in Europe. So a fervor was whipped up across Europe to send these soldiers to retake the Holy Land from those they called infidels. The peasants, who could not afford to buy swords and armor and provisions and follow the armies, went looking for infidels closer to home. They found the Jews who had been their neighbors for centuries. Horrific acts of mob violence sprung up throughout areas of France and Germany. Always, conversion away from Jewish tradition would have spared Jewish lives. But in our hundreds, our thousands, we perished al-Kiddush Hashem, for the sanctification of God, rather than turn our backs on centuries of Jewish life, learning, and faith. Rashi, one of our most prolific sages, rose from the ashes of the First Crusade, writing down everything he had ever heard or read, for fear the wisdom of 1,000 years would be lost. Elezkera v'nafshi alay ashpecha al koroteinu hamarot ein azohu gudiman. The destruction of Spanish Jewry. For half a millennium, beginning in the 8th century, Spain had seen a flourishing of Jewish scholarship, poetry, philosophy, and music. Then, from the 12th to the 15th centuries, the clash of Christian and Muslim armies on the Iberian Peninsula left the Jewish communities under increasing pressure to convert away from Judaism. Many Jews, like the great Maimonides, pretended to convert and fled to calmer countries around the Mediterranean. Sometimes, entire families, even entire villages, would pretend to convert in hopes of avoiding violence. This was only a temporary solution, as the Inquisition began to investigate those newly converted. During these centuries, communities would be decimated and then rebuilt when things seemed safer. This came to an end in 1492, when all Jews in Spain were ordered to convert or to leave. Those who fled had all their money, possessions, and sometimes their children stripped from them as they left. They made their way to places like Istanbul, Sarajevo, Tzfat, Amsterdam, Brazil, and eventually to the British colonies in North America. Those who stayed risked their lives to preserve a Jewish identity for their children, often relocating to Spanish colonies in the New World to avoid the Inquisition. To this day, their descendants resurface when they migrate to the United States, reclaiming a life they had been preserving in secret for 500 years. Elezkera v'nafshi alay ashpecha al kuruteinu hamarot ein azohu gudiman. For the dancers at Nova, 7 October 2023. In the south of Israel, every winter, there is a festival to celebrate the arts, farms, and nature of the Negev. It is called Darom Adom, the Scarlet South, in honor of the bright red anemone flowers that carpet the region every January and February. This flower, which springs up each winter, regardless of the conditions of the prior year, has become the symbol of Israeli resilience and a memorial for those attacked at the Nova Music Festival. This festival spread over the fields between kibbutzim and attended by many hundreds of young people who were greeting the dawn. It was not part of the terrorists' plans. The presence of so many, where empty fields were expected, slowed and disrupted the advance of the terrorists across the southern communities. Hundreds were murdered, raped, taken captive in the fields of Nova. Today, Nova is quiet. Today, in the fields where they fell, where they were kidnapped, where they hid, today, you find a field of sculpted red flowers that will never fade, a grove of trees with a photograph and name at the base of each one, a tent where people stand in line to place their hand on the arm of a scribe as he writes a Torah in honor of those murdered and in longing for those taken. In the silent field, the words rise up.
Simple cantor, thank you.
El nora lila, el nora lila, amselanu mechila, bishat hanehila, tizkule shanim rabot, habanim vehabanot, Beditza of Sola, Bishat Haneila, El Nora Lila, El Nora Lila, Amselanu Mechila, Bishat Haneila, Shar Benilar Ashar Kifana Ayom Yifne Asher